Hello, did I turn it on? Yep, I'm on. And it's not until I get on camera, right? Look at this whangers here, right? Should I stop and, oh my gosh. You know, the whole time I make this video, you're going to be watching that whanger and see where that goes instead of me. Hi. Today's video, oh, there it goes. Whew, wow. Is about being an author, and are you a pantster or are you a plotter? We'll see, right? Um, yeah. Oh, my name is Bonnie Lacey. I'm an author, speaker, blah, 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 right? Hope you're having a good day. We'll see how this video goes, especially since, whatever. It's a beautiful day. The sun's better here. It's still cold here. I'm in Nebraska. But here we go. There are so many techniques in writing books. There's so many ways. There's so much software, so many things to do. When you think about back in when whoever C.S. Lewis, did he just write on it wasn't even a legal pad then, right? He just wrote it on some paper by hand, or they had those clunky typewriters, which they are really cool. I have one. Oh my gosh. But in the creative world, there are so many techniques of writing a story, writing a book, creating art, creating music. There are different ways, oh my gosh, that's a whole year's worth of videos, don't you think? Right. Wow. But first comes the idea, whether it's a song or the book. Where do you get the ideas? And some people say, well, I just can't think of anything. I can't think of any ideas. And it's like, I'm going to be really rude here. Warning. Are you dead? Come on. When you walk into a room, when you walk into a store, there's things that you see that maybe somebody is doing something like, oh, that's odd. There's a story there, right? Read the newspaper, and there's a journalist that writes about certain things or certain ways, and you think, well, they're going that way, I would go, well, then go that way, right? There are ways, there are things. There's so many ideas. I hope I get to do, well, if I don't get to do them here on earth, I can do them in heaven, God willing, right? But first is the idea for the song, for a painting. Sometimes it's just slathering paint on the wall, and it creates the background, the foundational part of the painting structure, right? And then eventually, as you get some of that paint on there, I'm not a painter, I'm an artist, but this is like, maybe I should paint, right? But once some of that is up there, you can kind of sense where, I want to go into that, and I want to put this, it's wow, the foundational, the idea. Oh my goodness. So, what is a pantster? That's the first one I'm going to talk about. A lot of people don't like that word because they've changed it to discovery writer, but a pantster is just by writing by the seat of your pants. It's, letting it flow, whatever. And I took this definition off of the website here. It says, this phrase originated from early aviation, where pilots relied on their senses to navigate without advanced instruments. They were flying by the seat of their pants, right? Hence, a pantster. So in writing, it's like you're right from the seat of your pants. Whatever happens, happens, right? And I admit that it's a fun way to write. It just kind of creates a flow, and I've done it before. That's the way I wrote that first short story that I talked about in another video, running. Just let it flow. It was fun. You can take the character anywhere, or the character, if they want to go that way, then you take them that way. It's just a different flow. It's really fun. But I found out the hard way that that's not very efficient if you need to get some things done. If you've got a deadline or whatever, right? A personal deadline, like as an indie or an independent author like I am, or a deadline with a trad or traditional author, published author. So the other one is plotter. And that's what I do more or less now. Yeah, for me, it's more efficient. When I wrote, I wrote 4 books, um, a couple of them by the seat of my pants, which I remember it was fun. Then I wrote the 5th book I wrote is actually the first book in the series that I have, the series of 6 books. Um, and I felt like it was well established enough, it was good enough to put the money and the time into to publish, which I'm an independent, so that's something that I had to do. But at a certain point, I mean, here's writing. You write the whole book, and you have to get to the end so you can edit. You can't edit a blank page, right? So you write to the end of the book, and I knew I needed an editor. I knew it had problems, major problems, right? And that's a whole other video on how I met my editor. It's just amazing. Another God story, which is just really fun to tell. But knowing that, you write the whole book, you send it, you go through it many, many times and edit yourself. I had several readers anyway, read it and let me know what did you stumble over? What part, what sentence needs to be revised? What scene needs to be thrown out? And then you go through it again yourself and edit, and then you send it to an editor and they go through it, and then you get it back and you put their input into your software and take it from there and hopefully soon publish. But I did that twice with my editor on that first book called Released. It was that bad. I knew it was good enough to pursue publishing, but man, it just needed help. And I paid that same editor again twice. It's expensive, but she was so worth it. She was so good. I learned so much from her. But here's the deal. That's not very efficient. If I want to get out a couple of books in a year, or maybe 2, 3 books in a year, that's not efficient use of my time. When we're a newbie, when I was a newbie, I listened to other authors online on podcasts or whatever, and thought, well, they would describe what their process was, and I'll try that. That sounds really good. So I would try that, and so I've tried many different ways, and maybe that'll be another video at some point. What are the ways that I've used in my writing time? But I've finally come down to some of these other things are not my way. I've combined several of them. Trying different ways definitely makes me learn, helps me learn. And even though I've got, I'm writing right now the 14th book in all, that'll be my 10th book published. I'm still learning. Oh my goodness, so much to learn. And I just finished a book by James Scott Bell. I have to look over here to read you the title, How to Make a Living as a Writer. And it's one of the best books, I think, out there. He talks about everything to make a living as a writer, but one of the ways that it's a plotter way, what he uses, he, gets the idea for the book, which we talked about, but then he, and again, I do this too. You write the back cover blurb knowing that once you get to the end of the book, that's maybe going to change, but at least it gives you a theme, a foundation, some structure to build on. So he writes that, maybe the synopsis, but then he takes a stack of index cards to Starbucks or someplace with him, and he just thinks about the theme, the plot, and where he wants to go with it. And then he starts writing a scene down on each card until he has like 30, 40 cards. And that's what I do. I have like over 50 cards for this book that I'm writing right now. And he brings them home, a different scene on each card. And he brings them home, and then he divides them into 3 piles. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, right? What would fit in each one of those as the book, flows. And from Act 1 it transition into Act 2. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I do when I'm just about at the point in this book where I will I feel like I'm at the end of Act 1 and it kind of feels like it's going to flow into Act 2, I will print off those chapters, those scenes on my printer, get my red pen, right, and read it out loud, read every word out loud. And man, it really teaches me. Yeah, my pages are bloody by the time, blood red, by the time I get done with that. But it teaches me, it helps it flow. It helps me, no, it helps me. Uh, this might be, I'm not going to edit this video, but it's, anyway, reading those words out loud, those pages out loud, helps me find places where if I were to narrate it myself, if I were to hire a narrator, those would be the places where they would stumble or it wouldn't flow. It wouldn't, become that flow, beautiful. You've heard those before. Sometimes they get so tight or they ramble or they, like I am right now, right? But again, that's what I do. I read them out loud. Then I can go back and edit whatever, how edits. Oh my gosh, that stops me too because, the editing, okay, you've done that through the whole book. You've written the whole book. You have it, you've read it out loud. You've gone through it several times. They call it, you pass through it several times. Then I've had readers read it. Right now I have one main reader, and she reads through it. She gets it back to me and said, well, this stopped me. This doesn't make any sense. You need to, edits basically. Then I put in what I think is what I want to keep of what her input is into the software. I write in Scrivener, which maybe that'll be another video someday. I'll tell you what all I do, what all I use. And once I get that input, then I'll go through it several more times, print it off, red pen, read it out loud, right? And until I feel like, okay, it might be ready to pass on to the editor, boom, 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 right? But when I get done and I hit the end and I know that I'm going to go back into it and edits, that's where the magic happens for me. You're reading along and a lot of people talk about the muse, who I write through, blah, blah, blah. And that's cool. That's okay. It ain't just a muse or whatever. It's the Holy Spirit for me. So as I'm editing and I'm reading through and sensing and visualizing a scene again through Him, I see something else that I didn't see before, and I write it down. I sense that there's something more that I need to dig into in this scene, and the magic happens. That's what I wanted to get to. The magic happens. So don't get discouraged. It's what I've described. That's months of work, at least heavy weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. If some people can do it in a month, but that's a lot of work, a lot of time on your part to mix it in with the rest of your life, right? But I want to encourage you to get to that place, to get to that place where the Holy Spirit is leading you and guiding you into this whole picture of a story that only you can write. Does that make sense? I hope this helps. I hope this encourages you. But again, are you a Pantster discovery writer or a plotter? Let me know in the comments before. Oh, and by the way, I'm Bonnie Lacey, if I didn't say that. And also, could you please subscribe and hit like if this made any sense to you? But make a comment down below. Which are you? And what do you want to learn? What are you writing? I'd love to interact with you. I hope you're having a great day. God bless. God keep.